Hi, everybody. So this is really fun. We are here to talk about the premiere episodes of the new Star Trek series, Star Trek Discovery. And this is very exciting. And my friend Tom is here. We haven't done a podcast for a long time, so this is really exciting.
Hi, it's good to be back.
Yeah. And so we should probably state going into this that I am definitely the novice, I guess, the amateur when it comes to Star Trek. I've seen all the movies. I've seen a few episodes of the various shows of original series and Next Generations, I should say, and that's about it. So I'm not a. This is the first of the series that I will have started and watched all the episodes and stuff like that. So that's kind of fun for me.
Should I introduce myself a little bit?
Yes, please.
So I'm the more seasoned, I guess, fan between us. I've been a fan since I was about 3 years old. I watched the premiere of Next Gen when I was 7, when it was aired.
Yeah.
I've watched every minute that's ever been made of Star Trek, and even some that's not official. And I'm pretty steeped in it. I've got stuff on my desk, I'm that guy. So
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah. So it's kind of be two different perspectives, which will be fun. And we did do podcasts. If you're interested, last year we looked at all of the movies, so that was really fun. I really enjoyed that last year. So I'll put a link in the description section if you want to check out those podcasts. And so Star Trek Discovery. This was kind of long talked about. It had sort of a build up that was somewhat controversial. They delayed it at least twice, I believe. They had I don't know. It was just something that I thought I was nervous about. That it was going to be disaster. A lot of people were complaining about the trailers. A lot of people were complaining about that it was on CBS All Access, and I get some of that complaint because there's so many streaming services these days.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was kind of nervous going into it. But what were your your overall response, your overall reaction to it?
Having seen the episode, or my response to the rollout, having seen it, it's Star Trek. It's back.
Yeah.
It's back on the air, and I'm pretty excited about that. In spite of, some of the things that concerned me. Didn't like the graphics the initial graphics and special effects they released at first. I was troubled by a lot of things. I think CBS really botched the launch in many ways. I guess they aired the first episode, but it was only part 1. Really, and that's not going to hook people. If you really want to get people excited, you need to give them a whole story to. Anyway, they sort of botched the launch, but.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird too because they didn't even give really the first episode with the actual crew. We'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
The Discovery ship. We don't even see that in either of these 2 episodes. But anyway, I started out a little bit nervous, but I actually loved the trailers. Everybody, I felt like, well, you were positive about them, but I felt like many people were very negative about the trailers, and I thought they looked epic and really cool. And so I went into watching it, and I loved this. I thought it was really exciting and really good. And there was definitely some stuff that was confusing that I didn't really understand kind of what was happening. But I kind of feel that way about most Star Trek, and so I didn't really bother me that much. I don't know. I just was able to be like, okay, whatever. And I think what I liked the most, it looks so beautiful, and it was so exciting. But also, I just loved this lead character. I thought she was fantastic, and it wasn't just a female power kind of whatever girl power character. I thought that she was really interesting, and I thought the actress was wonderful. Her name is Sonoka. I don't know how you say her name.
Sonequa Martin Green.
Okay, yeah, Sonequa Martin. She was great, I thought, in the role.
Hmm. Yeah, and I thought the character was really well written, because once you see like things about her that you have to admire, and actually things that remind you a lot of other Star Trek characters. I saw a lot of Kirk in her, sort of her boldness and her openness to learning new things, and her pride in being in Starfleet, and also the conviction of when she knows she's right, she knows it, and she tries to she fights hard for her beliefs.
Yeah.
On the other hand, she is naive. She is mistaken. She's not fully actualized, and I expect that what we're going to get this season is her story, her arc of how she becomes self-aware enough to become who she's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. So basically, like, they decided to follow the Prime timeline, not the Kelvin timeline,
Apparently.
for this. And but it does definitely feel inspired by the JJ films as far as the styling, don't you think?
To some extent it is, but I think it's inspired by all the science fiction that's come between Enterprise and now, which Enterprise was the last Star Trek series that aired, for those that don't know.
I've heard that some people compare it to Deep Space Nine. Would you agree?
Yeah, there is a kind of a dimmer aesthetic going on, I guess, and you like the lighting. I guess the lighting quality alone is has that going for it.
And Deep Space Nine wasn't episodic, is that correct?
At first it was, and much of it is, but it was one of the early shows on TV, period, to start doing not just seasonal arcs, but entire series arcs, where you've got a big conflict going on, and then you've got all these episodes that may have, there's episodic things that happen within that space, but yes, there is an overarching thing. Whereas Star Trek and Star Trek: The Next Generation were episodic. Like, you could jump into any of them, get what's going on, and follow it from beginning to end, pretty much, and you didn't really have to be informed about what was going on before, for the most part.
Okay, yeah, and I liked that. It can be a little frustrating, the serialized shows, when they, like, you're so invested in the story, and then the story doesn't end well, and it doesn't finish well, and so that can be kind of frustrating, because you feel like, why did I waste my time hearing this story? That's the only thing that can be a bummer about them, but in general, I like them, and so it's certainly fun when it starts, for sure. That's definitely so. Yeah, so it starts out, it's not the Discovery. It's the Shenzhou.
The Shenzhou, yeah.
Shenzhou. And you have Michael Burnham is the one of the leads, and then also you have her captain, played by Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, Captain Giorgio.
Yeah. And so they've had a mentoring kind of relationship, and at the very beginning, she goes to check out this piece of space debris, basically figure out what it is, and it turns out that she ends up getting kind of attacked by these Klingons, and she finds out basically that they are wanting to, like, start this, she ends up in this conflict with the Klingon leader, and she ends up actually, like, killing the Klingon leader, and so that
or at least maybe not a leader, but someone important, a functionary, someone whose job it is to protect, like, a sacred artifact, or someone called a torchbearer.
So the biggest complaint I've heard from people about this show is people upset with the portrayal of the Klingons. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I was honestly a little bothered by it at first too, but I've kind of been paying attention and thinking it through. Mm-hmm. And for one thing, the writers have said, I really hope the fans stick with us. Just trust us. Like, we know what we're doing. We know Star Trek canon. Believe me, we know why you're nitpicking this stuff. Or, that's what they're telling us. So please just go with us. we promise it will work out. I'm kind of putting a little bit of faith in that.
Mm-hmm.
That aside, and that all the the Canonista concerns and stuff about that's not what they really look like. Well, it seems to me like they're adding to the look of Klingons. Like one of the problems with Star Trek is that, well, it's not really a problem, but it's one of the characteristics of it is that whenever they meet an alien, everyone in the race is the same. They have their monocultures, right?
Mm.
And whereas they'll meet a race that the Ferengi, everybody's a capitalist, right? Everybody's a merchant, everybody's in business. That's all they care about.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have like volunteer firefighters. Like there are a lot of functions that people play in a society. There's no teachers who don't really care about profit. They just want to help people.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently not. It's a monoculture.
That's true.
They're adding to, and with Earth, there's not just one look of how people dress and how they look, right? There's a lot of diversity within so they're adding that to the Klingons. I think that's cool and interesting. But also, I noticed with the shape of the beacon and the shape of the ships, the shapes used in the costumes, they're meant to evoke snakes. And for the purposes of drama, that's really important because in our mythic imagination, snakes are powerful. In fact, the scientists have found that our eyes have evolved to see snakes. Like that's one of the most important things our bodies are meant to do is to detect snakes and keep away from them. Right. So snakes are as a matter of like evolutionary Darwinian tradition, they're our arch enemy.
Mm.
Right. So when you show us the snake-like imagery and all these snake-looking people, it's supposed to put us in the position of, it's a snake. Like we react to that without even not knowing what's going on. And actually, I think some of the objection to, no, I don't like that is, it's a snake. I don't like that.
Interesting. I can see that. Yeah. And I mean, I get it because like, I understand because everybody has their fandoms and things. And I certainly this year went through like the remake of Beauty and the Beast, which was hard for me in a lot of ways. And so I understand it being hard. I get it.
Yeah.
But hopefully, maybe it'll win over some of those more critical people, but maybe not. But anyway, they seemed like do you feel like the Klingons have been very consistent in their look over the years?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few things. The one thing I can pin down, one or two things I can pin down that have been consistent across all things are like spikes on their clothes, kinda, and dark skin, like generally swarthy looking.
Yeah.
Other than that, and even then, there's exceptions to those things. So like, yeah, it's pretty open. Like, there's of course, there's a fanboy in me that wants to see original series Klingons on this show, that wants to see no head ridges, just bushy eyebrows and Fu Manchu mustaches and swarthy skin and people saying no tricks, and they're being crafty like they were in the original series. But I'm not going to get that. This is a movie made in 2017 for people in 2017.
Yeah.
And I think there's sort of an immaturity among the Canonistas, like objecting to all these changes because it makes their tummies feel funny. Well, grow up. This isn't just for you. This has to enchant a new audience in a new way. Yeah,
I mean, if anything, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because of, my reactions to my fandoms, but like, you should in a way be glad because it is in keeping that tradition alive, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess at least I feel like with this, as opposed to, in my opinion, the Beauty and the Beast example, like they are very like respectful certainly in the marketing and in the things. There's nothing in here that is critical of that legacy that people love. But I get it that it can be hard, so I understand. But anyway, and so the Klingons, they are very upset. Obviously, this leader has been killed, and then so she gets sent back up to the Shenzhou, and she is desperate to like tell them, like, we have to take out this threat. And I thought that this was really interesting because, and this seemed to me, from my limited experience, to feel very Star Trek-y to me. This debate that they had between I liked the line where she said, "Battle is not a solution; it's a scream." And this debate between that the Starfleet does not fire first, and then she says, "We have to. If we," and it's sort of this debate that you even see today of like, do we go in and take out a threat, or do we wait until we're attacked? And then, how sort of, when are we being appeasers, and when are we encouraging diplomacy? And you have this sort of debate. And I thought that was very well written and very well done between those two women.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is very Star Trek, through and through. It's the classic kind of Star Trek debate. And some interesting things I want to point out about that. The idea of the Vulcan hello, right? That's the name of the first episode. Where she's arguing, look, the Vulcans, when they first encountered the Klingons, got blown away. So the next time, they don't make the same mistake twice. The next time they fired first because they're not idiots, right? That's the argument. Or because Vulcans are logical. They're not hung up on, oh, am I going to feel bad about myself if I shoot first? No, they don't care. They don't feel anything. They're worried about logic and about surviving, right? So they're very strict in that way. So this is what the case that Michael's arguing. There's an interesting echo here of the premiere of Enterprise, the first episode of Enterprise, because they find a wounded Klingon, and the Vulcans, who are kind of overseeing Starfleet, like they're kind of advising Starfleet on how to handle new threats, because Starfleet's young and new in that series. So the humans haven't even encountered Klingons yet, right? But suddenly a wounded Klingon shows up on Earth. So the Vulcans are saying, you have to, let him kill him, let him die. Like, he's wounded, you need to kill him. He's in the state that he's in. He'll be a disgrace to his people. Like, he'll be persona non grata at home. Like, you have to kill him. And the Captain Archer's like, over my dead body, we don't kill people we've captured who are wounded. We help them get better and send them home. And we're going to take him home. We're going to, wounded or not, he's going home alive. So screw your logic. We're doing what we believe is right. So there's an interest. It's sort of flipping that a little bit, where our hero is actually arguing the Vulcan side of things and saying, screw our, Starfleet, morals and whether or not we feel good about ourselves. We've got to do the right thing and make sure fewer people die. Yeah. And all through, I like how Michael doesn't know what decisions are the right ones. She thinks she does, but eventually, at some point, she's asked, "Does this come from logic or from your feelings?" And she's like, "I don't know."
She's like following her instinct and her experience of having killed this Klingon and having had, what she felt when she was there, and she's hoping that people will trust her. But of course, they're also, nervous and scared. And I thought it was really good. He says, she says, "How many lives will be lost from your failure to act?" And he says, "Whose lives? Victims of your imaginary war?" Right. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of the debate that you get in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where Koba and Caesar have that same sort of debate, whereas Koba says we need to act against these humans. They are going to hurt us in the future. Whereas Caesar says, no, we need to keep peace as much as possible. And so they have this sort of debate between them. Kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And I thought it was really good. How did you feel about her pinch knocking out, whatever they call it, knocking out the captain. Was that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the things that made me feel so good about this is that they surprised me so much. Right, that shocked me.
Yeah.
Along with the ramming incident.
Did that feel like something that she would do? Like, was that not? Because some people said, "Oh, this is more like Star Wars than like Star Trek. This is too much like a space opera rather than a sci-fi." Did that seem like something that a Star Trek captain, that Star Trek would do to their captain?
No, traditionally no. But this is, this in these first 2 episodes, if you think you're watching a traditional Star Trek show, you don't know what you're talking about. Like you don't know how Star Trek usually goes, right? And this is what they're doing with the fans. They're sort of presenting us with, oh, okay, this is a Star Trek show, and I know this, I've seen this. So here's the captain, and here's the first officer, and we'll be with them for 7 years. So we better get used to them. We better cozy up to Captain Georgiou because she's going to be our captain. And don't get used to her.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, and I watched one of the videos you sent me, and I was laughing because they hadn't seen the second episode yet, so they were going, "How does she do that and stay in Starfleet for the rest of the series?" And spoiler, she doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess I didn't know that. I thought it worked. I believed that she would do that because I don't really know Star Trek that well, so it wasn't like they were like, no officer would mutiny like that. Like, that's just never, that would not happen. And it's like, I don't know. I believed it because they'd had this debate and she was desperate.
Yeah. On the other hand, under the right circumstances, Spock would do that in a New York minute.
That's what I thought. And I just saw Wrath of Khan in the theaters, which was really fun. And he certainly does that to Bones.
Yeah.
Spock.
He says, "Sorry, Doctor, I don't have time to discuss this logically. I need to save everybody right now."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Michael thinks she's doing.
Mm-hmm. Because we mentioned, so there are flashbacks to her childhood because she was found or I forget, by Sarek, who is Spock's brother, correct? Or
father.
Father. And so she's basically kind of raised to be in the Vulcan ways.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I have many questions about her origins, but I do think it's interesting because we have had characters in Star Trek before who are of another race and then are raised by a completely different race. Mm-hmm. Worf is who comes to mind first, right? He's Klingon, but was rescued by Starfleet and raised by humans in the Ukraine. So. He has adoptive parents, right? And and we kind of get to see in the series how he responds to that. So we're kind of getting a similar dynamic with Michael Burnham here. And also, I'm wondering, how is it that, okay, so we get a flashback to 7 years prior. Sarek and Michael come aboard the Shenzhou, and they meet Captain Georgiou, and it's like, oh, hi. We don't get why she's there. And 7 years later, she's first officer? That's quick. I mean, no academy training? I don't know. There's still a lot of questions to be answered about. I did get the feel, though, and this is another thing that's another insight, I guess, from a longtime fan. There's the dynamic between Georgiou and Michael reminded me a lot of Seven of Nine and Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager. Right, so for those that don't know, in Star Trek Voyager, they're lost in space, they're on the other side of the galaxy, and they're trying to make their way home. Along the way, they run into the Borg, and they end up making a deal with the Borg to pass through their space unharmed. In the process, they sort of capture a member of the collective and deprogram her. Right, they take out her Borg implant, a bunch of her Borg implants and stuff. But she was raised by the Borg, and so she's kind of a waif, right? She's kind of an orphan, and Janeway takes her under her wing and helps mentor her into being human again.
Okay.
And so I'm seeing a similar dynamic at play. There's sort of a mother-daughter thing going with Michael and Captain Georgiou. And so, which is, logic would dictate at the end, when Captain Giorgio is killed, Michael had every reason to not kill that Klingon, but to stun his ass and capture him, so that they could execute the plan. But because her adoptive mom, her best friend, Captain Giorgio, was killed, she took revenge.
Yeah, and she is killed. So that. So is the Klingon War like a thing in canon that's sort of talked about in things, like the Clone Wars thing? And
it's touched on in one or two episodes of the original series. There's and I imagine we'll get to this in the series. There's a legendary captain named Garth of Izar, who is a Starfleet captain. He ends up being a legend in Starfleet, and they study him in the Academy. But then he does something genocidal and goes crazy. And in the original series episode where we meet him, he's crazy. He's a lunatic and a megalomaniac. So that's what's being referenced there. Other than that, we don't know much more about it. Now, we did meet the Klingons in Enterprise a few times, and it wasn't all out war, but it wasn't always friendly either.
Well, yeah, I mean, we in the sixth, the third and sixth film also, it's very.
Oh, sure.
Klingons.
Yeah. And it's not, and again, it's not all out war, but it's kind of they were meant, in the original series when it aired, they were meant to be sort of Cold War analogs, like Russian analogs, where, like, we're showing up to talk to these people, about their dilithium, right, or their resources.
Yeah.
And then there's a dispute over who gets them.
Okay.
Right. So it's kind of the Cold War thing that was going on with Vietnam and Korea and stuff like that, where you had these little proxies conflicts, but not direct conflict at all times.
Yeah. So do you feel like it's too war heavy and not enough exploration, or how do you feel about that?
That's a fair concern, right? I know that some fans I'm sympathetic to the criticism some fans have that, like, this is a little too stuck in the past, where, like, we're talking to Klingons again. We're not meeting new people. We're not pushing the boundaries out into the frontier. I hope we'll get some of that. I think we may, but honestly, though, in terms of the mythical significance of Star Trek and how the myth of Star Trek works, it's really about exploring yourself. When you're pushing out into the frontier, what we're really talking about is we're pushing into ourselves to discover what's there, and how do we respond to it? How do we react to it? And that's in place here. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that that we won't have some of that exploration. Like, I don't think the Klingon War is going to last the whole season, or the whole.
It may. Probably not the whole series, but yeah, at least the whole season.
Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see, and I'm excited to see the new once we actually get the full cast. You're going to have Rainn Wilson, Jason Isaac is coming, and a bunch more people, and that because once we actually get the Discovery,
that was kind of a bold move to not even put the title ship in the episode.
Yeah,
like not even for a second.
Yeah. So, and the ending, I was a little confused. So they have like an invisible ship or something, or there's a cloaked ship.
They have a cloaking device, which a lot of the canonistas are up in arms about, because in the original series they encounter Romulans who have cloaking devices, and at that time they're saying, "Oh, this is new. What? We've never encountered this before."
Yeah, and so the ship, the one Starfleet ship, crashes into the Klingon ship, correct? Is that at the end?
It's the other way around.
Okay.
I loved that scene. Like, I loved how you start to see mysteriously the ship kind of bending in on itself, and there's explosions kind of, and you're like, what is going on? Like, I'm wondering, like, did they beam over a weapon or something? It didn't occur to me for a second that they had cloaked the ship and were ramming, and then they revealed themselves, and I went, like, I literally gasped. And because they're cutting it clean in half, right? Really, ballsy move.
Yeah, because then we lose Giorgio, and we also lose the Klingon captain. It's one of those Tecumseh. Star Trek always has really hard names. Really hard names. Tecumseh, and and he's killed by Michael, and
the albino. The albino kind of takes over.
That was interesting. An albino Klingon.
About that guy too. Like the Klingons are always their name, son of their father's name, right? But his name, son of nobody, son of none.
Oh, interesting.
Because he's an outcast, right? He would have been abandoned. I guess apparently he would have been abandoned at birth for being an albino. So that's weird, and I'm kind of curious where they're going with that. I'm anxious, I'm curious to get to know this guy and what he's like.
Yeah, me too. It was an interesting look to him, and that's the one I think named Volk. I think is his name.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do have the male. I guess his name is Anderson. That his is the one that the ship gets
Europa.
Yeah. Europa. That's right. That's what it's called. So in the next one we'll have a bunch of new people, and so it should be pretty fun. But like I said, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that it was I don't know. I just thought it was really heartfelt. I thought it had some really good writing, really good dialogue. I thought it looked amazing. The visuals were just so impressive. And I mean, I guess they're spending between around $8 million an episode for this show. And I thought that, honestly, that being on a streaming would mean that they would take less financial risk on the show. And so that because they're already taking a risk with the streaming thing. But then I don't know. I thought it looked as good as Star Trek Beyond, honestly.
Yeah, pretty close. They didn't splash out on it as much, but there was still some economy. I could still see that they were making the most of the sets. They were making the most of what they had. Mm-hmm. But by no means was it on a shoestring, obviously. But the scale of it was cool, and it's certainly the prettiest Star Trek series we've ever had, without a doubt.
Well, and I'll be excited to get to see how the whole crew, because that's a big thing about Star Trek that's fun, is the whole crew dynamic, and we got a little bit with Saru.
Yeah. But we haven't even really started yet. I feel like we kind of got a tease.
Yeah, this is like a prequel, sort of. Mm-hmm. So I really liked it. I would give it I don't know. I'd give it 4 out of 5 stars. I really thought it was strong and very entertaining, and I'm excited for the series.
Yeah, me too. And mostly it's just I have so many questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they dropped enough stuff. I'm like, I can't wait to find out about that. I can't wait to learn about that. I love having new Star Trek to explore. I like watching it, not knowing everything about it.
Yeah, me. Well, I mean, I think I can imagine that would be true, and it's fun for me to just start out fresh. To be waiting for the episodes, and which I've never done that with Star Trek. So I'm really looking forward to it. And the only complaint, as far as from fans, that I definitely push back on is some who've claimed, the PC casting or whatever. And I think that's totally ridiculous, because I think the Star Trek has always had, I guess you could say, PC casting. I mean, they've always had a diverse cast.
It's always been racially and progressive.
Yeah,
it's a progressive show.
It is.
If you're a conservative person and you have a problem with shows with a progressive kind of slant, this isn't for you. If you can't accept someone else's ideas about how the world works or whatever, then
yeah, I agree. And I think that they cast really good people. I think that, at least the lead, I just thought she was tremendous. She was very good.
Yeah.
And, so it wasn't obviously just because she is a woman of color, but
now what bothers me is the members of the press who are celebrating the diversity of the cast, in an ignorant way, where they're saying, "Oh, it's the first Star Trek with a black lead," and Benjamin Sisko from Deep Space Nine is over there going, "Excuse me?"
Right. Yeah.
Or this is the first one with a female lead, and and Captain Janeway from Voyager is over there going, "I beg your pardon."
Right. Yeah.
Have you ever watched this show? Like, do you know what you're talking about? Or did you just see the J.J. Abrams movies and that's all you know?
Yeah.
Which, fine. Not everybody has to be into Star Trek, but do your research before you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the best things is Uhura in the original series. I love her.
Yeah, I feel like we're finally getting the Uhura stories we never got in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you give it if you just off this premiere? What would you out of 5 stars? What would you give it?
I'm kind of tend to be more binary. Just best show ever. Best show ever or worst show ever. I like Mr. Sunday movies.
Like a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing. Cool. I would definitely give a thumbs up then if we're doing that. So cool. Well, where can people find you?
I don't know. On the internets, I guess. I've got a Twitter feed I'd love for you to check out at Happy Place Poems. It's poems inspired by Disneyland. If you want to follow me personally and just my random stuff, I'm at Elmano Roboto.
Awesome. I'll have links to that in the description section. And we're going to be talking about, all the episodes. We'll do our best to have them quickly, as much as we can. And so it should be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, this will be a good time. So
put in the comments section what you thought of these episodes, and what your pluses and minuses might be for the series so far. So thanks so much for joining me talking about Star Trek.